on the line. I'll apologize now if it's a little loud. My neighbors are in their pool and my windows are open. So sorry about that. But good evening and happy Pride. I am Carla Williams Scott, Director of the City of Columbus Department of Neighborhood. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to our first ever virtual Pride Illumination. We didn't plan to have our Pride Illumination this way, but because of COVID-19 and socially distancing, this is where we are. But nonetheless, we will still celebrate Pride. Over the past few weeks, we've made history as members of a diverse coalition lifting up our voices for social justice and civil rights. There have been moments to celebrate as well as to mourn. And today, we celebrate the United States Supreme Court's ruling that provided much needed protections for our LGBTQ workers from across the nation. We have also mourned the deaths of Raya Milton and Dominique Fells, two Black transgender women who were murdered earlier this month. Tonight's program is an opportunity to reflect, renew, and recognize a distinguished leader with the Steven Shellabarger Illuminator Award. I appreciate Mayor Ginther, Council President Hart, Auditor Kilgore, Community Relations Commission Chair Chris Kozad, and Stonewall Columbus Trustee Jerry Rodriguez for joining us. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Council President Hardin.
Director, I think that the mayor goes first.
I'm sorry. It is my pleasure to introduce my boss. Mayor Ginther, sorry about that.
Well, good evening, everybody, and Director and Council President, our great auditor, Chris Kozad, and to Jerry Rodriguez. I think that Council members Remy and I think I saw Dorns as well listed here. Want to say good evening to everybody, and of course to our incredible awardee this evening, Miss Letha Pugh. Just grateful to have you and your family be part of this tonight. Like just about everything else in our lives, Pride Week is different this year, and not just because we're holding the Illumination virtually. While our work towards equality and inclusion for LGBTQ Americans is not finished, this year we recognize the need to focus on justice for African Americans. Black transgender women and men and LGBTQ people of color are among the most marginalized communities within society. So let's be clear. Black trans lives matter. Black trans women lives matter. It's not just enough to say it. We need to listen to Black LGBTQ voices and demands for change. I'm excited. As I mentioned, this year's Illuminator Award is going to Miss Letha Pugh. Make me happy. A leader in the LGBTQ community and a strong advocate for LGBTQ people of color. A couple of weeks ago, I met with members of Blackout and Proud. I heard loud and clear their calls for policing reform, accountability, and racial justice. We're implementing the Community Safety Advisory Commission committee recommendations, almost 2/3 of which have already been implemented. But it's not enough, and it's just a start. We're establishing a civilian oversight board. We will announce a working group to lay out a board that works for Columbus, and we will seat it by the end of the year. And we're revamping the Division of Police's use of force protocols. We'll be announcing more of those changes this week. Neighbors, this has been the most challenging year many of us have ever experienced. Global pandemic and demand for justice and reform with police oversight and accountability. As former President Barack Obama said, change will not come if we wait for some other person or we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we see. Change can't today from the Supreme Court's decision to prohibit employment discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. This is a major step forward, but our work continues to provide equality and justice for all. Change will continue, Columbus. The time is now. As Dr. King taught us so many years ago, the moral arc of the universe is long, but it always bends towards justice. It's my pleasure to introduce our great partner and legislative leader, our City Council President, Shannon Hart. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for your leadership and for allowing this amazing event to happen one more time. Even if it is in a virtual sense, I am happy and proud to be here. On behalf of my council colleagues, and I do see a Councilmember Favor as well as Rob Dorrance, Councilmember Tyson, Councilmember Remy. Thank you to my colleagues for joining us as well. I'm so happy that we're able to celebrate Pride Month with our annual Pride Illumination in the midst of everything else that's going on. The past 2 weeks in Columbus have been reminiscent of the images in Lower Manhattan 51 years ago, when the Stonewall riots catalyzed the LGBTQ liberation movement here in the United States. For the past 6 years, we have lit City Hall in rainbow colors to honor that history, not just to illustrate the openness and welcoming nature of our city, but to bring our community together. And while I'm sad we're not physically together, I appreciate that we're still able to take this time to honor our community and honor our community's history. 33 years ago, the same year I was born, the group ACT UP formed in response to the AIDS crisis. Through direct action and legislative engagement, they fought to save the lives of their neighbors and the LGBTQ community and beyond. They had shirts. I'm sure all of us have seen them. Activists and designers took the upside down pink triangle that was used by Nazis to label LGBTQ people in concentration camps, and they reclaimed that symbol by flipping it onto its base. Underneath the right side of that pink triangle, they printed "Silence equals death." Now, since ACT UP was formed in 1987, our community has made tremendous progress, especially when it comes to slowing the transmission of HIV and AIDS. Even since we started the tradition of lighting City Hall in rainbow colors, we've gained the right to marry. And I think the power in these sort of recurring events is not just the opportunity for community to come together, but rather it's an opportunity for us all to say, what is next? As the mayor highlighted today, we saw what was next when trans and LGBTQ people gained the right to not be discriminated against at work. What's next? And as we consider what's next, I can remember that ACT UP shirt, because for many in our community, especially queer, homeless youth, and trans women of color, we know that silence still equals death. I specifically want to note that just in the past 2 weeks, 2 trans women of color have been murdered. Bria Melton in Ohio, right here in Ohio, and Dominique Remy Fales in Pennsylvania. And so I hope that we can all take time during this Pride Month to think about what's next for our community. How can we speak out and act up for equity in our city? We've seen many taken to the streets over the past few weeks to defend Black lives. And we're having we're having what would many have considered radical conversations just a few months ago. I hope that we'll start to reimagine how our institutions and laws work for LGBTQ people as well. Because we've come a long way since the Stonewall riots, since ACT UP was formed, and since we started holding this event in 2015. But we also know that there is so much more work ahead of us. With that, I'd like to introduce our city auditor, a true champion for our community, and my friend, Auditor Megan Kilgore.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, friends. Tonight we gather to celebrate and declare June as Pride Month in the city of Columbus and celebrate the work of one of our fearless advocates, Letha Pugh. Letha, congratulations to you, Wendy, and your family. Thank you for your service. Your award is so, so deserved, my friend. Tonight, when we illuminate City Hall, please know that our intent is to show the world that our city is a beacon of light to all, no matter how you identify or whom you love. I am proud that today the Supreme Court recognized and confirmed what we already knew in the city of Columbus. Our ability to come together tonight virtually is a testament to our commitment to advancing the rights of all people, together, no matter our locations or the physical distance between us. We are right now in the midst of one of the largest civil rights movements the world has ever seen. What a remarkable opportunity we have at our fingertips right now to keep advancing together. And I stand ready with my colleagues to continue our fight for equality. Columbus, happy Pride. Make it an amazing month. And Letha, congratulations. So well deserved. Now I have the privilege of turning this over to someone whose leadership has certainly paved the way for myself and for so many around this wonderful community, Chris Kozad. Chris?
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate that. Thank you, President Hardin, Mayor Ginther. It is one of my favorite nights of the year, and doing it virtually, why not? We're doing everything else virtually these days, so Pride Illumination too. Pride has become a celebration of our progress. Tonight, we take a few moments to celebrate the Supreme Court decision granting employment protection for sexual orientation and gender identity. But Pride started as a riot, fighting back against the injustice we were subjected to as a people. Black and brown LGBT people started our movement. Butch dykes and drag queens started our movement. Transgender and non-binary people started our movement. They fought back side by side, recognizing the common oppression that they all experienced. Pride now must become a call to action. We stand at the intersections, as we have before. We are in the midst of a pandemic, but it's not our first pandemic. We suffer hate, but we are not alone in being hated. We have marched in the streets when it was not safe to do so, and we do it again in solidarity. Now is the time for the LGBT community to take an inventory. We know what dying alone, scared, and unloved feels like, and we learned how to take care of each other. We know what hate feels like, from Harvey Milk and Matthew Steppard to the Pulse nightclub massacre that we just honored the anniversary of a few days ago. We have learned to protect ourselves and to protect each other. We know how to take to the streets. We've been doing it for over 50 years. We know what police brutality and misconduct feels like because we too have experienced it. We know what it's like to be perceived only as a victim or a perpetrator by law enforcement. We are seen as hate crime victims or pedophiles or sex offenders, an object of pity, disdain, or disgust, often all three. Now is the LGBTQ community's opportunity to take a stand. We were built for this. We need to share our energy and the benefit of our lessons learned. We must walk beside Black and brown people. We must listen to Black and brown people. We must each begin the personal journey of unlearning racism. There is always more to learn, more work to be done. We must call each other out when we witness racism, just as we have done in the past when we witnessed homophobia. We must call each other in to hard conversations about racism with our families, in our workplaces, in our homes, in our neighborhoods, and with our friends. We stand at the intersections of race and class and sex and age and ability and sexual orientation and gender identity and religion. Our community is a part of every one of those communities and more. And every one of those communities has LGBTQ members. We are truly everywhere, standing at the intersections. It comes with a responsibility to listen, for while we are all oppressed, that oppression takes different forms at different times. And right now, the oppression of Black and brown people demands our full attention. We must listen to their voices, to their stories, to their hopes and fears, to their demands, for only they fully understand their own oppression as we fully understand ours. Standing at the intersection comes with responsibility to step up to the front lines. When Black and brown bodies are in danger, we must put our bodies in harm's way to protect our Black and brown friends and colleagues. Be that at protests, on traffic stops, in public places, wherever Black and brown people are threatened by others or by the police. Standing at the intersections comes with a responsibility to step back into the support roles, allowing Black and brown leaders to lead. They know the path to their own liberation. We need to do the behind-the-scenes work so that they are centered. Standing at the intersections comes with a responsibility to speak up in places and ways that are not typical. It comes with a responsibility to give of our time, volunteer, attend protests, bear witness to what is happening in our world. Standing at the intersections comes with the responsibility to give of our money. Buy from Black and brown businesses. Give to Black and brown organizations. We must put our money where our mouths are. Yes, standing at the intersection comes with responsibility, a responsibility to be active, to do things. This requires action from us. More than sharing a post or reading an article, though those things are important too, we must show the world we are determined and we stand in solidarity and pride with all other oppressed people. We were built for this. We know how to do it, and it is well past time to march into those intersections and share what we have learned for the good of each other. In closing, I want to congratulate Letha. It is an honor, well-deserved. You are an amazing leader in our community, and I appreciate you. I want to say happy Pride to everyone, even though it's virtual. And I want to take this opportunity to introduce our next speaker, Jerry Rodriguez, the president of the board of Stonewall Columbus Board of Trustees. Jerry?
Watch this tonight. I think many of us weren't sure what was happening this year. I think as the mayor started off, this year Pride is different, and it's very different. I think we kicked off on June 1st after having experienced several days of protests and fights highlighting that Black Lives Matter. And I think as has been discussed, that fight is far from over. Today's Supreme Court decision, having spoken with many people, the number one question I've been consistently asked was, how surprised are you by this decision? And the fact that in 2020, we have to be surprised by the fact that the Supreme Court of the United States acknowledges that LGBTQ people are people, that we have rights, we have the same rights as any other person to not be discriminated against, I think speaks volumes to the lengths we still have to go. the fight is far from over. We can't wait another 50 years to acknowledge that the systems that we currently have are built on racist policies and must be systemically changed. I think we must do the hard work now to acknowledge that. We should all be using our voice, our resources, and our time and energy to really focus in on uplifting and centering the voices of our Black community, especially right now during Pride Month. I think while we celebrate the Supreme Court decision, we also know that policies don't apply to everyone equally. And I think some of the systemic issues that we're discussing these days will highlight that. And so while, many of us who didn't have these freedoms and protections before, my fear is that those who are already marginalized, our Black trans community, will still not get to feel the effects of these policies going forward. And so we must continue to fight for that and highlight those issues and celebrate the wins and stand up and use our voice for those who don't have a voice or may not have access to it. I think Letha Pugh, our honoree tonight, is a fantastic person great example of being at the right place at the right time and doing the right kind of work to uplift our LGBT community in so many ways. As a small business owner, past president of Stonewall Columbus, one of the biggest reasons that we were able to launch our Trailblazers program to support LGBTQ seniors in our community. She's done so many great things and had such an impact across the community that it's surprising that she hasn't received the award already. But I'm very honored to be here today to stand alongside Letha and support that work that she's doing with Blackout and Proud, and to ensure that Stonewall Columbus is truly a community center for our entire LGBTQ community, providing the services and the programs that are needed right now. I think many of us a few months ago knew that there were needs in our community and needs that were not being met by Stonewall and by other organizations in the community. And I think with the issues of COVID-19, the protests and Black Lives Matter, our needs continue to grow and change. And those needs that were there a few months ago have not gone away. If anything, they've gotten worse and new needs have popped up. And so I think it's fantastic for us to be able to celebrate tonight the business community, our government, and our nonprofits coming together to say that we care about these issues and we're all committed to doing the hard work needed of each of us, and the willingness to be able to be held accountable by each of us to do that work and to make sure that we're listening to the right voices and creating policies and making changes that are so needed in our community. And again, congratulations to Letha. Very excited to have her receive the award tonight. And again, look forward to her continued service to the LGBT community. And
thank you so much, Jerry. Thank you for those words, and thank you to Commissioner Kozak for your strong remarks as well. I was really moved by both of your remarks. Thank you. I have the pleasure of presenting the Steven Shellabarger Illuminator Award. The Illuminator Award was created to recognize the individual within the Columbus community who has demonstrated outstanding initiatives to promote LGBTQ rights, and in doing so, has created a more inclusive Columbus. Past recipients include Gloria McCauley, Ms. Linda Schuler, John Sherman Latham, Scott Shopper, Andrew Levitt, aka Miss Nina West, and of course, Mr. Shellabarger himself. This year, I am truly excited to present this award to a true leader in our community, Ms. Letha Pugh. Born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska, Ms. Pugh has blazed a path of equity and entrepreneurship since her 2001 move to our city. Focusing on improving the lives of residents, she co-founded Blackout and Proud, a collective that promotes pride among the Black LGBTQ community. More recently, Pugh co-founded Service Relief in response to the economic instability facing service workers during COVID. Service Relief has aims to alleviate hunger within the service industry in Franklin County by soliciting, collecting, and preparing food for distribution. We're very, very grateful for that service and all those folks who joined her in feeding our service industry employees through COVID. Pugh and our wife Wendy are also owners of Bake Me Happy and runs a home health business. At this time, I would like to virtually present on behalf of all my colleagues, the mayor and the auditor and all of those speakers, the 2020 Steven Shellabarger Illuminator Award, Ms. Letha Pugh. I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to pass this virtually to Letha and turn the mic over to Letha.
Harden and Jerry, everyone for your kind words. I will be completely transparent here. Today has been absolutely overwhelming, overwhelming in a good way, full of love. It has been. I've probably gotten 300 text messages, emails, phone calls, and we are. All of us here are just very excited for me to be receiving the award. I would be remiss not to thank the people that I've depended on over the years for support, guidance, love, and sometimes just a hug. My wife, Wendy, who picks up the slack when I'm hopping and jumping from one meeting to another. My daughter, Avery, who thinks all I do is surf the web on my phone all day. And my work family at Rivers Crossing Home Care and Bake Me Happy, who grant me grace when sometimes I forget to dot my T's and or dot my I's and cross my T's. They know me and they know that my heart is good. This is not easy work. I've struggled to find my way in this community, but once I settled into my own, the leadership part came naturally. Wendy and I started Bake Me Happy with the idea that if we offered a product that stood on its own, it wouldn't matter if it was gluten-free. We did not go into starting a business in the closet. We normalized our lives because we knew that the optics around our family would be a topic for someone, somewhere, whether racist or homophobic. But more importantly, maybe there was a trans person who may have thought that they had a good idea for a business, but just couldn't pull the trigger out of fear of discrimination. Or a woman who may have lacked the confidence to open a shop out of fear that she couldn't manage it alone. Or a Black person who simply lacked the resources, but pen to paper had an amazing business idea. We have worked hard to build our business on the backbone of fairness and equality. I love all phases of entrepreneurship and will continue to support where I can. It is not uncommon for you to see me walking people through business plans or ideas. I love living in the space of possibility. I believe that the protest that happened in 2017 is the same protest right now. Instead of just walking away from the fire, I leaned in a way that was meaningful and impactful for me. For a long time, I'd heard that there were just not very many African American LGBTQ people interested in being involved in this community, but I didn't see it that way. Not when I looked into a crowd at a Pride festival and I could count thousands of people that looked just like me, who'd share a quick glance with me or a nod on their head, just acknowledging that we exist. But I envisioned more for us. I knew that we could make a space for ourselves. The work would be hard, but eventually the right people would fall into place. This is what Black Out and Proud has become. We literally wouldn't have a voice today if we didn't start pouring a solid foundation 3 years ago. I appreciate all those who initially took part, because all of them got us to this place. And when I say this place, I mean today, with minimal funding, but a lot of determination. And as if I didn't have enough on my plate, myself, along with an amazing group of people, raised over $100,000 in 3 weeks to start Service, a relief effort for hospitality workers, a meal distribution program for folks in the hospitality industry who had lost all of their income. Moving through the process was intense as the need was pressing, but we pulled it together, and over the last 10 weeks, we have prepared and served over 10,000 meals with no waste. Amazingly, everything I do is connected in some way. Service was easy because I understand, although from an allergen perspective, what it's like to have a scarcity in food and food options. I am also Black, I'm out, and I'm proud of the work that I do. And as long as I feel my contributions are meaningful, I will continue to do what I love. Thank you. Thank you, City of Columbus.
Congratulations to Miss Letha, to Wendy, Miss Avery. We really appreciate you and are very proud. I'm going to hold up your award one more time so folks can see it. This is the 2020 Steven Shellabarger Illumination Award presented to Letha Pugh.
Thank you very much.
At this point, the sun should be setting, so we can actually get to lighting City Hall. I do want to recognize that this year we put out a Pride sign installation on the Marconi side of City Hall that you are welcome to take pictures in front of throughout the days that the City Hall will be lit. I want to thank artist Shayla Connolly for that reason, for that art installation. This is where we all get to join in for the fun countdown. So could all of our panelists who are part of this event unmute yourselves? I recognize that usually there are a couple hundred folks counting down, so I want to encourage folks watching at home to count down with us as well so we can recreate this experience. So I think we got most folks unmuted, and we can start the countdown at 10,
9,
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
1. Happy
Illumination.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really nice.
Happy Illumination, everyone. And now before we go, the final item on our agenda tonight is a performance by the Gay Men's Chorus. Now, usually this is a live performance. Because of global social distancing, we're going to play a video from one of their 2019 performances. This is the Columbus Gay Men's Chorus performing Glory from the movie Selma with soloist Sharon Uda and Jay Womack. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
One day, when the glory comes, it will be yours. It will be yours. Oh, one day, when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Oh, glory. Oh, glory.
Hands to the heavens, no man, no weapon. Formed against, yes, glory is destined. Every day, women and men become legends. Sins that go against our skin become blessings. The movement is a rhythm to us. Freedom is like religion to us. Justice is juxtapositioning us. Justice for all, just stay specific enough. One son died, his spirit is revisiting us. True and living in us. Resistance is us. That's why Rosa sat on the bus. That's why we walk through Ferguson with our hands up. When it go down, we woman and man up. They say stay down, and we stand up. Shots, we on the ground. The camera panned up, King pointed to the mountaintop, and we ran up. every man, woman, and child. Even Jesus got his crown in front of a crowd. They march with the torch, we gon' run with it now. Never look back, we done gone hundreds of miles. From dark roads, heroes, to become a hero. Facing a league of justice, his power was the people. Enemy is lethal, the king became regal. Saw the face of Jim Crow under a bald eagle. The biggest weapon is to stay peaceful. We sing, our music is the cuts that we bleed through. Somewhere in the dream we had an epiphany. Now we right the wrongs in history. No one can win the war individually. It takes the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy. Welcome to the story we call victory. The coming of the Lord, my eyes have seen the glory.
One